Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre's special event this evening. I'm glad you're with us now because, as I say, we have a special event this evening. We have Paul Jacobs live. Now, Paul has very kindly given his time for free this evening to do this as a fundraiser for us, for the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre. Whilst we're locked down, whilst our doors are still closed, we're planning on opening them up again very soon. But for now, of course, we have put all our services online for free. So thank you, Paul. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for this very kind gesture. Now, before I pass on to Paul, I should introduce myself. My name is Treherne. I'm the chair of the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre, and I'll be your host for this evening. So we're going to have a chat with Paul, and Paul is a very well known, very well respected medium. He's travelled extensively promoting his work and teaching and tutoring. He's an author as well, and he's worked in America and Australia and Canada, throughout Europe and the UK. He has his own centre in Hanover in Germany. But what I'm going to do is ask him to go right back to the very beginning and tell us, even before this started, tell us about your childhood, Paul. Where did you grow up and go to school? Start with that.
Oh dear. Okay, I think we'll have time for nothing else. It's such a long story. Don't forget, I'm getting quite old now, so I've got to go back a number of years. I've got to admit, as a child, I just went to a Catholic school first of all. Actually, brought up a good Catholic boy, and my mother took me out of the Catholic school because of the cruelty they gave to us. And the priest actually banned us from the church because my mother took me away from a Catholic school and put me into a normal school, non-religious school. But even as a boy, for some just natural, innocent, childlike way, I was always questioning, such as, if God made us, well, who made God? So even at that very early age of 5, 6, 7 years of age, I was sort of questioning about the existence of life. And, and as I got older, I kept trying to understand, well, what's the point of us being here? And then through my adulthood, young adulthood, I was trying to find something in this physical world that would satisfy me. And to be honest with you, even though, I experienced nearly all things this physical world's got to offer, I could find nothing of this physical world to satisfy me. There was always that something within me. And it only was through going through a period of, in a way, self-destruction, things going terribly wrong in my material and physical life, even to a point where I felt I was going to actually, have a nervous breakdown, or wasn't too sure whether it was even worth living. And really hitting that rock bottom, I believe it brought an awakening within me. And, and I think often this what triggers off this reality of this power, or that something we belong to, that's something that's divine, which then triggers and brings the mediumship ability and potential to the surface. But even as a boy, I didn't know it was the spirit world, but I did have experiences as the boy. But it was only later on, when I began this journey, that my mother started to explain that when I was a little boy, I would get up in the middle of the night and say there was a man on the bedroom wall, or there was a lady here, or whatever. And then say sometimes I would actually go into sort of a trance state and start speaking like a little old man. So I used to have to go to the hospital and doctors for tests and checks to see what was happening, So I believe it was there right from the beginning, but I didn't realise it was. But one experience that was really outstanding when I was about 13 years of age, I was in the Catholic Church and, to be honest, quite bored with the Mass that was taking place. And I was kneeling in the pews and I was watching and staring at the priest at the altar. And as I watched, and this was all objectively, the priest disappeared, and standing on the altar instead of the priest, I could see myself. And then above the priest, there's a large wooden cross with Jesus on. And I watched Jesus come alive on the cross, come off the cross, stand behind me and walk into me and begin to speak through me. Now, please don't go away and start thinking Paul's said he's communicated with Jesus and he's got Jesus as his guide. I'm not saying that. Okay.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yes, I know. Mind you, I'd have a fight. There's that many people who do have him as
Exactly.
But so at that time, then that made me question innocently: is that God telling me I should be a priest? But now, after coming into mediumship and understanding mediumship, I think it was the spirit world's way, symbolically, and giving me that objective experience to tell me that one day I would speak with the voice of the spirit.
And that's interesting because so you've come from a Catholic background, so
yes.
You were brought up in a religion and you had this experience in church or in chapel. It's surprising that you then went to spiritualism and not to the religion that you were present.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I turned totally against religion and God after my father died in a car accident as a young man, and so I had to go and see the priest after when my father died, and my younger brother and sister who were still at school, and I said to the priest, why did my father have to die when he did in such circumstances? So the priest turned around and said to us, because you've all started to stray away from the church and not attending the church. And I was disgusted. I said, well, if that's your God, then you can stick your God. I want nothing more to do with God. And for then about 6 years, I go to bed each evening and really cry myself to sleep. And in a way, even though I didn't believe or want to know God anymore, I was crying out to God. And I said, God, give me my family, my father's life back, and you can have my life in return. Of course,
dear.
I meant it in a physical sense, but that's not possible. But in a way, God heard that prayer and answered it, because one by one, through spiritualism, through mediumship, each member of my family was given that evidence and given my father back. So in turn, God answered it in a spiritual way, and I had to give my life back in a spiritual way in return and keep the promise. And in my journey of mediumship, every time I thought, no, this is not for me, I'm walking away from it, I'm giving it up, it's as if this little voice inside me says, but you made a bargain, you made a promise, we kept ours, you've got to keep yours. And that always then just egged me on and gave me the strength to keep going through all the difficulties that we have to face in this journey of mediumship, which we do have to face a lot of difficulties and troubles. Yeah. So when I was in my early 20s, I just moved into some new business premises, and it was very old property, and the offices at the front were old Victorian terraced houses, and I turned the upstairs into an apartment. And when I was there, staying there, I started having these objective experiences that scared the living daylights out of me. I didn't think it was anything about me being a medium.
Right, we've lost you. Hold on. Paul, we've lost you for a second. Can you unmute yourself? Sorry. Can you unmute? That's it, you're back again. Thank you.
So I started having these objective experiences in these premises, new premises I was living in. And I just thought it was a ghost, it was haunted, it scared the living daylights out of me. And it was all objective. And so I used to get that frightened. I actually used to get up in the middle of the night and book myself in a hotel. And then one day, when this was happening, I was walking down this particular street. I've been down many times and suddenly stopped and saw people walking into this building and looked at the sign and it said Spiritualist Church. And I thought, I wonder what goes on there. So I walked into the room, sat down, didn't speak to anybody, nobody spoke to me. But as I sat down, there was just this overwhelming feeling, I've come home. And then the lady came on to take the service, and she started this demonstration of mediumship. I didn't know what was going to happen. And she came to me with the contact from my father. And then halfway through, she stopped and she says, I know you, don't I? And I said, I think so. You seem familiar to me. And then she says to me, you're Alfie's son. And I said, yes. And she said, well, I won't carry on with the contact because I know you. I'll speak to you afterwards. And it turned out to be my father's great aunt. And
your father's great aunt. I thought it was your aunt. Okay.
So no, it was my father's aunt.
Right.
And then about 6 weeks later, she said to me, are you still going to the church? I said, I am. I said, but I don't think it's for me. It's a bit rubbishy, really. You know what I'm hearing. I don't think much to what they're giving and what they're saying. And she says, well, I'm going on Sunday to Longton Church, Gordon Higginson Church. Would you like to come with me? Well, that meant nothing to me, you know, I didn't know who. And we went to the church, and as we arrived, Gordon was standing outside, and he was friends with my aunt, great aunt, and he said hello and shook hands with me. And as he shook hands, I heard this voice say, you're going to become friends. And that was really then my journey and my story. But even then, I wasn't interested in becoming a medium. I just wanted to understand and really find out whether God was a reality or not. And I remember Gordon saying to me after a few weeks, he said, how are you enjoying coming to our church? And I said, I'm a bit disappointed, really. I'm not getting the answers I'm looking for. And he says, well, what are you looking for? He said, I said, I've come to want to know God and whether God's a reality. And he took the service that night, and his address was all on about God and the reality of God. And you know, we became friends. First of all, I went to 1 or 2 courses of his, but still no serious intent of wanting to become a medium. And then one afternoon, I was having a cup of tea with him at home, and he just looked over at me and he said, I don't understand you, Paul. And I said, what do you mean you don't understand me? He said, why you're not doing more about your mediumship, I just do not know. So I thought, well, if he thinks I should and he believes in me and is the best in the world, then yeah, okay, I'll look at it and take it more seriously. You know?
Now, can I interject at that point?
Yeah.
Because I know he took you under his wing and you are his protege, but there'll be many people on tonight. I think we've got over 100 people here tonight who will never have heard of Gordon Higginson. So would you like to just give us a little bit about
yes, certainly.
Gordon Higginson, please?
Yeah, Gordon Higginson, you know, was president of Longton Spiritualists for 43 years, president for, I think it's about 27 years of the Spiritualist National Union, principal of the Arthur Finley College for 23 years. He was a boy medium. His birth and his life and what he would do was predicted before he was even born. He had every mediumistic ability you could possibly think of, demonstrating mediumship, trans-mediumship, healing, and probably the last of the great physical mediums who I was very fortunate to witness. I know 1 or 2 people find that interesting, but very few people have really seen the type of physical mediumship I've witnessed. And you know, when I was looking, I sat on the front row opposite a cabinet. A cabinet's just this wooden box with a curtain which is used to concentrate the energies. Gordon was claustrophobic, so he would go into the trance state outside the cabinet, and then they would stand him up and walk him into the cabinet and sit him in the chair. And when the ectoplasm, this is what enables the physical forms to manifest, it becomes from any orifice of the body. And as it began, and it's not in complete blackness like a lot of sciences today, it was in red light, but still quite clear. You could make everything out and see everything clearly. And you could see the ectoplasm begin in a very, it was a bit like cigarette smoke. And as it became more, it got thicker like candy floss, then like candy, and then like cotton wool. And it wasn't just like little strands. It started to billow and become wider, and there were meters, yards of it. It came all the way down onto the floor of the platform, and then off the platform. Then you'd see it build and lift. And then you could see, unfortunately, this was towards the end of his time, so we didn't get a full materialisation, but we just kept seeing the forms starting to take shape, but then they kept collapsing. But one beautiful experience in the seance was where we had an apport. I looked up at the ceiling, and as I looked up at the ceiling, these roses fell from the ceiling, and there was still the dew on them. And then from the voice box, the ectoplasmic voice box, this man spoke, and it was a husband wanting to speak to his wife and saying the flowers were for her for their wedding anniversary, which was that day. So it wasn't that it was dark, you didn't see them appear, and then the lights came on and you saw them there on the floor. I actually watched them fall from the ceiling. And for that gentleman's voice, for everybody to hear, speak to his wife and expressing his love and the remembrance of that special day of their wedding anniversary is absolutely amazing.
So physical mediumship is not so common these days. In fact, it wasn't common at all. It was a specialist thing, but does it still happen these days? Do you think there are any? I know there's been a few frauds.
Yeah, I think with physical mediumship, there's always been fraudulence. Even some of the real genuine physical mediums have been accused of fraud, and some of them, even though they are genuine physical mediums, have been found being fraudulent, because again, the pressure and the demand to come up with the goods. And then it's caused other occasions to be fraudulent. Even Gordon was accused of it. I never witnessed it, but anything where I could think was fraudulent with it. And this is the problem today, because most of it's in black lights, black to complete darkness, so you can't see, your hand in front of your face. So it does leave people open to question and be sceptical whether it's
yes.
One or two mediums who I know I'm friendly with, I've said to them, you're always going to leave yourself open for accusation, and you've got to do what you can to try and move it more into a lighter room, so we can remove that questioning, that what people keep questioning about it being in the total blackness. I think what happens with a number of physical mediums is that they bring it to the public too soon before it's developed properly, and then also maybe do too many seances. I mean, Gordon and Higginson would only do 2 large public seances a year.
Really?
Yeah, only 2 a year. And never in the summer months, he said, because it didn't work quite so well in the summer. It would always be in the winter months. And what he would do, besides the 2 public, he would have his group seance, physical seance, at his church, where there'd be 40 people, and then there would be 3 or 4 new guests invited each time. Because also some of the old people from our church, they say to me, Paul, what you've seen at Stansted with this physical mediumship is nothing like what we've experienced. Because what you've got to realise is the spirit world have to manipulate the power and the energies of the whole room and everybody in the room. So if you've got a large audience of strangers for the first time, that's a big job and difficult work for the spirit world to be able to manipulate and blend those energies to the right degree in the way that they need.
And do you feel they're pulling the energy from the audience to use?
Oh yes, they do. They take. And actually, what I believe, and I know Gordon believed also, and I think this is sometimes where some mediums, when they give students assessments and tell them, they should be a physical medium, and the person isn't a physical medium, or it is some people have that energy, that physical energy, to be a good sitter and a giver to a physical medium, not actually that they are the physical medium. And I think that mistake happens quite a lot. There was one seance, I didn't see it, it was only the old people who sat with Gordon all the time told me about this one seance where this Native American Indian materialised, full headdress, and the feathers were tipped in red. And at the end of the seance, there was a lady in the audience who'd come in a brand new red cardigan, and it was threadbare in holes because they'd taken the fibres from her cardigan to colour the tips of the feathers.
Yeah, amazing, really. I mean, we have a room in the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre called the Helen Duncan Room. And of course, you know, Helen Duncan, famous Scottish medium, but she was found to be fraudulent on occasion as well. So
yeah. It doesn't take away that they weren't genuine.
Exactly.
But the pressure of those times. But I just want to say something to you here. You might not like this a little bit, but you know, Gordon's seances were always held in our social room. It wasn't a special room. And I said, Gordon, don't you need a room that's just used for spiritual things, you know, for your seances? And he says, no, quite the opposite. He said, you want a room that's got a living physical life energy in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's why he always used the entertainment social room for his seances at the church. You know,
yeah. Again, pulling the energy from the
from the
room as well as the people. Yeah.
But like with the trance, you know, you know, I mean, I've not seen anybody do it today. I mean, Gordon, you know, they would stand him up, walk him off the platform, walk the full length of the building and back without faltering, without stopping speaking. You know, because he was in that full trance state control. I'll be honest, I don't think I've seen a full trance state control medium. You know, and if any of you here are trance mediums, please forgive me if I'm offending, okay? I only remembered recently by listening to an old tape recording of a lecture of Gordon's on trance, and he said, most trance mediums are not trance mediums. They may be inspired, they may be overshadowed by the spirit world, but very few are in the true sense of the full trance state, and the rest are delusional. So sorry if I'm offending everybody, but you know, trance seems to have become the in fashion at the moment. You know, even if you look at the healing, you know, everybody wants to advertise themselves as a trance healer. What's wrong with being a spiritual healer? You know, I wish we could get rid of the word trance, actually. You know, because all mediumship is a form, is an altered state of consciousness. And then trance is still a mental mediumship and still an altered state to different levels of degree. But that full control, I still believe, is very rare. Only a handful of people really reach that state.
So can I ask you then, do you practice physical mediumship at all?
No.
You can tell me secretly because nobody's listening.
No. Actually, I mean, many years ago, I was, in my early days, I was at a seminar, and Gordon asked this lady to come out who he knew quite well, who ran private home circles for trance mediums. And Gordon fetched her out, and he said to her, now, if you could choose anybody in the audience to develop and train as a medium, who would you choose? And she chose me. And he says, that's correct. He says, now, tell me what gifts he has. And she reeled them all off, including trance, including physical. And Gordon said, that's correct, he has them all. But unfortunately, doing what I do on a treadmill, I've never had the time to give the dedication and the commitment to it. Maybe when I slow down my last few years, I might give time to it. I did give periods of time of sitting for the trance, and I was getting some results and getting there. But again, I just hadn't got the commitment to be able to give to it, with travelling on from one end of the country to the other, day in, day out, across the world, week in, week out. So it takes a lot of patience and dedication, you know. Yeah. So and I didn't have it. And also with trance, my problem is I'm too nosy. I don't lose. I'm a very controlling person. I like to be in control, and I just found it difficult to surrender. Now, on the occasions I still touch on some healing, I can go into quite a deep altered state quite easily, because that's being the passive, and I do surrender when it comes to that. But when it comes to the other forms of trance, I'm too inquisitive, I'm too nosy, and I just can't let that final click take place.
Yeah. I've heard other mediums saying the best quality of a medium is to be nosy. So there you go, people. So talking about travelling then, because I know you travel a lot, as I said in the opening, you've travelled to America and Australia and everywhere. Now that will all have locked down because of COVID, but we're beginning to open up again. And I know you said you were going to Dublin. So I take it you've moved online for most of your activities in the downturn. And how has that been for you?
Well, to be honest with you, I've always been a little bit of a dinosaur where technology is concerned. And a lady friend organised from Chicago for 2 years now. She's been saying, Paul, come on, let's do some online courses. And I said, no, it's not for me, not for me. And I was there at the end of February, in Chicago. And I agreed to do some online workshops and courses while I was there. And when I came back in the middle of March, we went straight into lockdown. So as soon as lockdown started, I'd already set up these first few courses. So actually, I've quite took to it. I'm actually enjoying it.
Yes.
And I don't feel I'm giving the students any lesser. And I sometimes actually wonder if they're getting more, because I was speaking to a colleague today and I was saying, I don't think sometimes we realise, or the student realise, when we're in a physical classroom with you, actually how much of our energy you're taking. And it can actually be quite draining and tiring. So we do it on Zoom. I don't seem to have that effect. So I've got a lot more energy, which keeps my enthusiasm. I mean, I took a 2-hour workshop yesterday, and it lasted 3 hours nearly. You know, and the students said, "Oh, wow, you're so generous with your time. Thank you so much." But I enjoyed it, you know, and I was quite happy to give the extra hour. I don't find it takes my energy as much. Plus, then I haven't got all the different time zones and the long travel, wherever, which also has a tiring effect, you know. So I'm really enjoying it. The demonstrations, the first couple, I was a little bit wary about, because for me, you know, as not many of you know, there's 2 styles of demonstrating. The popular one today is throwing it out to the whole audience, which is not my particular cup of tea. I prefer to go direct as often as possible. But, you know, when you've got Zoom and you've got, say, I've done dems on Zoom up to like 300 people, well, you can't do direction because you haven't got everybody on one page anyway. So the first couple I was a bit apprehensive. But, I mean, even when I've done the ones with 300, with 3 pieces of information and saying who the communicator is, I've got to one person straight away. So I've actually really took to it, and also as apprehensive because I'm quite expressive physically with my movement of my body, and on the platform I like to walk about, and so I found it a little bit restricting at first of having to sit here in front of the computer and not move or walk about. But after a couple of demos, I really got into it, and also with the smaller demonstrations, if you've got, say, like, I think you can get 25 people on one page. So if you only got a small demo of 25, you can then still do the direction if you feel drawn to do that, you know. So I think it's worked quite well. It's really, you know, and I think also the advantage mediumistically of it, because if you're working with somebody in person, okay, because your mediumship works through your psychic faculty and you start interacting with your recipient, you can't help, if you're not careful, keep dropping down into the psychic of the energy of the recipient, where you find with on the Zoom, you don't do that, and you stay with the spirit that a little bit easier and stronger.
Excellent. Well, we've got 105 people, 106 participants. So not that I'm going to put you on the spot and do a dem. But
as we go along, if there's anybody who wants to ask anything, to put their hand up.
Well, I'm going to do that in a second. I'm going to open up to everyone for questions. But just before we do that, since we were talking about lockdown, you have your own school. You have the House of Spirit in Hanover in Germany.
This is the last year, though.
I was just going to ask you that. So So, you know, it will have closed down as well because of COVID. But
Yeah,
so
we have held two seminars of recent, and I think we've got another 2, 3. We've got another 3 or 4 left this year. But I'm getting a little bit older now, so it's I'm thinking of starting cutting back a little bit, you know. So
I have to say, I've heard that for a long time, Paul.
I know, but no, I
No,
mean,
you mean it.
I mean it this time.
Okay, now as I say, we've got 105 participants on. So, ladies and gentlemen, now is your chance. If you've got that burning question that you've always wanted to ask a medium, and particularly Paul, or if you're developing mediums and you want to ask about your own development, now's your chance. So if you can use the little blue hand that's at the bottom of the screen, that indicates to me I can find you easier, because we have a few screens. So at the bottom of the screen, you can indicate, you can put your hand up and I will find you. If you put your hand up and you want to ask a question, I can do it that way. If you're stuck at all and you can't find the little blue hand, because I don't see any blue hands up just now, surprisingly. If you're stuck at all and you can't find the little blue hand, just wave to me and I'll flick through the screens, because I'm sure there must be questions here. Here's Tracey. Tracey wants to ask a question. I'll unmute you, Tracey. Just unmute yourself and you can speak to Paul.
Hi, Tracey.
Hi, Paul. You okay?
I'm fine, thank you.
With modern mediumship, it's obviously changed over the years. What is the mediumship today? What are we lacking?
Okay. When you say change, mediumship itself hasn't changed. I think it's the way it's being taught and developed and trained by the teachers that's changed. You know, people keep saying, "Oh, there's a new form or a new style or a new energy." It's a lot of rubbish. It's the same power that's always been. It still works through the same way, the same faculties. There still has to be that same development. I think what we've got to look at is we've got to look at what is a person's reason, motive and intent of wanting to be a medium, first of all. There's a lot of people who are moving into mediumship actually looking at it as a career change, and that's not meant to be, all right? It's got to be of service. We've also got to spiritualize the gift. There has to be that self-development and self-awareness, which is the foundation. There's got to be a touching and a recognizing of this power, and that's something divine. And in a way, I'm going to use the word God. Some people don't like it, but I don't see why not. It's a word everybody understands. And a relationship with God. And I think it's that part that's missing in the early stage of the development. And if we look back, and please don't get me wrong, okay, it's my career, if you want to put it that way. It's my job, it's my work, it's how I earn my income, all right? But, you know, if we look in the early days, even going back to the mediums I became friendly, the ones who dedicated, like Gordon, the wonderful medium from Scotland, Mary Duffy, and many others, it wasn't about a career. It wasn't about earning a wage. It was purely about being of service. Now, please don't go away, because I'd be a hypocrite if I say it's wrong for us to earn a living and be at work. You know, we've all got to live. But it's keeping that motive, that intent, and the balance of it. And Gordon Higginson said we've got to be very careful of the materialistic side of mediumship. And he said it's like a magnet that draws you in, but you don't realise it's happening. So even me, at times, I have to do a self-check, you know, and keep myself into check and make sure I keep the balance of it being my job and in my income and the part of being of service. You know, you've got to keep that balance right, but it's spiritualizing it. And if we look, television has done a wonderful job in bringing mediumship to the masses, but it's also taken it to being the entertainment side of it's become more and more prominent. If we look at a lot of our churches, a lot of people are not wanting organised religion, and a lot of the new mediums, and I would say 70% of students who come to the Arthur Conan College, which is a spiritualist college, don't want to work the churches. They want to work in private venues, in hotels and etc. whatever, and that's not wrong. I do it. I do it myself. But I think we're losing something spiritually and the motive and intent of why we're doing it. But, I'm going to just, funny enough, I was just looking at this before we started tonight, and these words are by Gordon Higginson. And if somebody really, really wants to go forward, whether you're at the beginning of your journey or you feel you're not moving forward if you're more experienced, then all you've got to do is take these words up. And really, you don't need any more than that. Because what's happened is today is, from how it used to be taught in the past, it was naturalness first, where today we want to put mechanics, technique and structure first. We should allow and develop the power and spiritualize it and allow then that communication to manifest naturally, then learn the techniques and the structure of what's manifesting. But his words were finding the spirit within. Before you can touch the spirit, you must find it within yourself. For all truth, for all knowledge and all love must be found first within oneself. The spirit can never touch you and bring love and peace within your being and from your being until you have found it for yourself. And before you can build a picture of love from the spirit, you must learn to find it in this life. Always prepare yourself as a channel for spirit. Stand there with love radiating from you, then God will touch you. You will have been chosen then as a channel for the Great Spirit.
Lovely, lovely words. Happy with that, Tracey?
Yes, thank you very much, Paul.
All right, Tracey. And honestly, Tracey, I was speaking to some other students the other day in America, and they were saying, and the working mediums, they said, Paul, we need to do some more courses, maybe more on the spirituality. And I said, you can't do any course on spirituality. Nobody can teach you. It's something it's got to happen individually, privately, and personally. Yeah, I say now, God's my best friend. And people say, when I speak to people, I say, you're not working from your soul. You're working in your mind or your head. And they say to me, well, how do you stay working with that higher mind and the power in your soul? I said, because I'm not doing anything unnatural. Because in my everyday life, I'm experiencing and living my life, sharing it from my soul, not just with my conscious mind. And I'm sharing my life in all it is with God. I let God be part of my day. And that doesn't mean being all love and light, because I'm far from it. Okay.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, okay. Okay. But it's that reality of that power and that relationship with that power, Tracey, that makes the difference, honestly. It really does. But it's something you've got to personally do yourself and find your own individual way to discover it and allow that reality to become part of you and your life. And then you'll find your mediumship will just manifest. Then all you'll need to do is learn a little bit of technique, how to deliver and structure it and present it to the people.
That's wonderful, Paul. Thank you. You're happy with that, Tracey?
Yes, that's brilliant. Thank you.
I'm just going to mute you again because we've got another question. Thank you. That was a wonderful session there, Paul. Thank you. So we have another question coming in here from Jessica, and she says, I'm currently training to be a psychic medium. How am I able to identify how I work? E.g., am I claircognizance, clairvoyant, or clairsentient?
It doesn't matter what you are. Okay. So first of all, let me just use the word, because I've got a little bee in my bonnet. I wish people would stop advertising themselves on their websites and Facebook as psychic mediums. It's confusing the general public. They don't know what they're going to. They don't understand that it's two different things. And by calling yourself a psychic medium, you're not letting them know on what you're offering and what you're working. There's nothing wrong with the psychic level. So why don't we just say psychic and medium, or, you know, spiritual medium and psychic, and separate the two. And when we look at the different faculties of communication, you know, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and the other clairs, we can't actually separate them. And because we live in this physical world, by wanting everything in defined answers and measurement, we keep separating it all into little boxes, and you can't, because I actually believe they're all part of each other. Sometimes when the information manifests with me, it's as if I see it, sense it, and hear it all at the same time. I can't define that it's one of them. They're all part of each other. And if you look at clairvoyance, I believe there's two forms of clairvoyance, mediumistically. There's one where the guides will participate, because I believe we blend and communicate directly with the recipient's loved ones, but the guides are assisting. And if there is specific information they know is needed to be got across, and the spirit world then will know how to get it across to me, then they can manifest it through the clairvoyance. Yeah. Or what happens otherwise, when we're working and blending with the clairsentience and the feeling and speaking some information, it then deepens and may then move and turn into the picture or the word. Yeah. So you can't really separate them. And please, don't restrict yourself to how you're going to receive. Okay, you know, it used to get me frustrated when I'd work with colleagues and they'd begin the demonstration. They'd say, "I'm a clairaudient medium. I'm this medium." I used to stand up and say, "I'm a box of licorice all sorts." And when I work, I always say one little mantra. I say to the spirit world, "I'll trust, surrender, bring me whatever you want to bring in whatever way I can receive it." So I don't restrict the spirit world in any shape or form of what senses they use or faculties they use. And also, I never restrict the spirit world in what they bring as evidence. And that's where we've gone wrong in the teaching. If you ask my students, I never ever teach my students what they should give as evidence. That's between you and the spirit world. It's not for us to control and demand what they bring as evidence. And it's time we stop teaching that. You know, I mean, there are some, you know, even in our spiritualist organisation, that teach you what you've got to give, even what order you've got to give the evidence. How controlling, how boring, how restricting to the spirit world.
Okay, yeah, no, this
Sorry
is...
if I've gone my eye horse a little.
No, that's fine. It's just I've got questions mounting up here, so I'm going to move you on. I know Veronica's got her hand up, but I'll come back to you in a second, Veronica, because someone was just in front of you. So we have a question from Jessica, and Jessica says, oh, hold on, no, that was Jessica, from Susanna. Let me just see. Right, change that. It's Laura. Laura says, how can you assess someone as a good fit for learning trance mediumship?
Sorry, say that, I didn't quite catch the word.
Okay, Laura says, how can you assess someone as a good fit for learning trance mediumship? So what qualities for trance? Obviously, they've not to be nosy.
Okay. So really, first of all, you know, in a way, really, like I said, I don't really like the word trance, okay? So if we look at the word, like we said, it's an altered state of consciousness. So in a way, if you're truly a medium, then the trance potential to one degree or another has to be there. Yeah? So, you know, so first of all, it's just simply assessing whether you are mediumistic. You've got the mediumistic faculty. And if you have, the trance potential is there to one degree. We can't say you'll take it to the full unconscious state, but you might be able to take it to the inspirational state or the overshadowing state. You know. And it's the same with healing. I don't know why we have all these trance healing courses, to be honest with you. You know, it's a passive, healing's a passive state into an altered state, and it's just a deepening of that altered state of consciousness. You know, I do really wish I could get rid of the word trance. I really do. It's so misleading. Really.
Okay.
It's like today, people, I mean, like these boxes we use for physical mediumship, everybody's sitting in them for trance mediumship today. There's got no need. People who wanted to sit for trance mediumship in a dark room, you know, we'd sit at lunchtime in the library at the college, broad daylight with the sun shining for the trance. You know, it's all got ridiculous.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to move on quickly because we have Veronica, you've got your hand up, so you can put your question to Paul. Veronica.
Yeah. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Veronica.
This is a question that I have thinking for a long time to ask you about.
I hope I can answer it then.
I don't see you so often, so now I will have the chance. When spirit world brings animals in a communication, is it a memory that they are showing, or is it the animal?
Okay. I personally believe we can sense the animal there, but the information about the animal will be a person from the spirit world bringing it for us.
So if you're a medium and you work and the animal comes to, you have to sense the animal too. So it's not just a memory. Do you understand what I'm struggling?
Yeah, you can sense the animal and you might be able to feel certain things, but sometimes animal communication is portrayed as if you're having this two-way communication exchange, which I don't believe. Yeah.
No, but often, you know, you have your grandpa and your grandfather come with this dog. You often, you understand what I mean? And then I was wondering, is it just the memory he shows that he had a dog? He could be, they show memories too.
Yeah, it can be just a memory. It can be that the dog's there as well. So I'm not saying the dog hasn't survived. And I mean, I've actually seen. I was at one demonstration, and I was giving a communication, and I could see clairvoyantly this German Shepherd, and I said, "Oh, you have a German Shepherd in the spirit dog in the spirit world?" No, and the dog then suddenly went right across the room and sat in the lap of somebody else. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, he belongs to the man there, he's just sat in his lap." You know. So yes, we can experience the animal as a real spirit. But
yes.
Still, a lot of the communication is also brought as memory from person as well. You know, I don't believe in this two-way conversation between you and the animal.
Okay. Happy with that, Veronica?
Yeah, really happy. And I know there are two.
I hope I haven't upset the animal lovers, you know. But...
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, Lynn Cheetham, I see you've typed a question, but I can unmute you because I saw you on my screen here, so you can ask the question yourself. Lynn, just unmute yourself. There you go. You can give your question to Paul.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Yeah, I've been going through the different channels for training for mediumship for many years. But I've got to a point in my journey where I feel I'm stuck and I really don't know what to do about getting a sense of direction now.
So,
what would you advise?
Okay, so I mean, really, I'd really need to know. I mean, so how long have you been, and what your development and training consisted of? You know.
Several years. Done the SNU training, but I've also done quite a few other outside courses as well.
Okay.
So it's gotten a little bit muddled, I guess.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, a lot of students do get muddled. I actually believe, even though I might be doing myself out of students, I believe a lot of you actually do too many courses too soon, too quick. Yeah, and also go running to too many mediums whose teachings and training conflicts.
Yeah, I've been finding that actually when training conflicting.
So, not every teacher will be the right teacher for you. I'll not be the right person for every student, okay? You can learn something from every teacher. And in the beginning of your journey, yes, you need to maybe experience a few different teachers. But when you get to a certain stage, I believe you're better staying under the umbrella of one particular teacher if that teacher resonates with you. It's like at the Arthur College, when I take the advanced courses, I have students come and I'll say, look, this isn't good what you're doing. And they said, yeah, but the last time we came here, that's what the teacher told us to do. So I said, well, all I can say to you is try my way this week, go home, digest it, and decide for yourself which will enhance your mediumship to the best ability. All right. Yeah. And again, too many courses. Okay. So, I mean, if I look back at my training, all right, I would only do one full week a year and one long weekend. And then the rest of the time, I would sit in a circle, okay, and put into practice and try and take on board what I'd got from those courses. Then go back. But whatever you do a course, don't digest it, don't try and allow it to move forward and come into play, and you're running back onto another course with another teacher giving you a different exercise or something else different to do, and something contradictory, and you end up in this old mess. And I'll be honest with you also, forgive me, but I do find, sometimes with some of the organisations training, again, it all depends on the teacher, I also find that sometimes it's too mechanical and too rigid.
That's what I'm finding. It doesn't feel quite natural to do it certain ways.
That naturalness, and if you look back in the old days, and even in my beginning, and I'm not old, it was mainly home circles and church circles. There wasn't all these workshops doing all these exercises, what I actually call just games for the teacher to give you something to play. Yeah. Okay. And then, and then it was in those circles then, and there wasn't always a teacher present. You just try to take on board and put into play what you'd learned from the courses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Now, Monique, you have a question, so I know you've typed it. I'll just unmute you, and you can ask Paul yourself. Okay, you're on.
Okay, Paul. Thank you. I'm a little bit public shy, but yes. I'll ask in regards to learning who your guide is as you work in mediumship. I keep hearing that it's important that you develop a strong relationship with your higher self or guides as you move forward in being of service. So is that true, or what would you say about that?
There is some truth in it, okay, but it just depends how we want to manifest that truth or how we understand that truth. Okay, so first of all, I think the most important thing is to have a relationship with your own soul and an understanding of your own soul, and that God power that's within, and that relationship with God. And I hear people saying, I'm going to ask my guide this and ask my guide that and ask my guide the other, and I say, why ask one of the soldiers? Why not ask the chief commander instead? Go to God, and then God will pass it down through the chain of those who can help and assist the best. Yeah. So when I'm working, yes, some guides are important, and I can understand when people come into this having a little bit of a infatuation of wanting to know and experience guides. I was the same, but when I'm working, I'm not conscious of my guides. Because I'm going to be conscious of my guides, I'm not going to be conscious of the communicators. I just accept they're there playing their part in the background, okay? But what I do is then I will give time to sit on my own, in my own home, not necessarily wanting to become aware of my guides and receive answers, but I speak to them. I say, look, whether it's about my own life personally or it's about my work in my mediumship. You know, I might say, you know, oh, I'm struggling, I'm having difficulties with this. Can we work on this? You know, I'm doing this type of demonstration, you know, and really, you know, we could do with really this type of information because there's going to be 1,000 people there. So, you know, and I'm having a problem with this and I'm a problem with that. Or, you know, and I'll say, you know, I need something new, something different in the inspiration or the philosophy. I'm going back to this place tomorrow and I've been there that many times, they've heard me speak that many times, you know, can you trigger me with something, you know, something new or a little bit different to what I've been inspired with before. So I speak to them in that way, but I know they're there. I've only had odd occasions of seeing them. I don't believe it's necessary or a need to see them, because most of them have reached to a stage in the spirit world where they've actually discarded shape and form. They only show form because of our need or our desire. But I can remember the first time I went to the AFC and I kept, like you, hearing about all these guides and the importance. So I came home and I sat, I was always fascinated by fire, and I was sitting cross-legged in front of the fire having a cup of coffee, and I thought, I wonder if I've got a guide, but if I have, I don't want one of these Native American Indians. It seems if everybody's got one of them. And as clear as day, without even trying, not subjectively but objectively, this Native Indian appeared. And for me, that's the intelligence of the spirit world, because they know I would believe that, one, because it was objective, and secondly, the last thing I wanted was an Indian. So what did I get? An Indian, because my own mind wouldn't have made or created an Indian. But knowing that they're there when they work with us, I'd got this demonstration to do, and I'd been at work and I'd been actually attacked, physically attacked, and I had to go to the hospital and get cleaned up with cuts on my faces and whatever. And it was only a local church, and I thought, oh no, I've got a demonstration to do. I've got just time to drive there. They can see physically, emotionally, mentally, I'm not in a state to do the dem. So when I got there, I'd still got blood on me and whatever. And they said, like lovely understanding spiritually, so they said, oh, are you sure you can't do the demonstration? So I said, okay, I'll do it. So I sat on the platform and I said to the spirit world, I said, if this dem's going to go ahead, you're going to have to pull out all the stops. And then I said, in fact, it's all yours. So when I gave that complete surrender, all of a sudden at the back of the church, that Native Indian I told you about stood at the back as clear as day. And they had one of the best demonstrations of my life. And this is what's happening in our teaching and training. We do too much focus on the mechanics and not enough of the naturalness, and there's not enough surrendering to the spirit.
Lovely,
yeah.
Lovely. Happy with that, Monique?
Very much so. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Now we are over time, but we have another question.
Yes.
Our last. Are you okay for time, Paul?
Yeah. I've got another meeting at 11 o'clock for the for America, but
yeah, we should be finished by now. But
no, 10 o'clock your time. Sorry, 11.
It's so interesting, and we've got another question coming in from Hanna. So Hanna, can you unmute yourself, please, and then you can ask your question, Hanna.
Thank you. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. I think my question is, how do we know if we're truly living the purpose of becoming a real medium? And is it common to feel quite emotional when you connect with your soul?
Yes, it can be emotional connecting to your own soul. And it's something that we really need to work on with our emotions, okay? Because if you don't understand your own emotions, and I believe the emotions is the base point of the communication when we're blending with the spirit world. So if we don't understand our own emotions, then we're not going to understand the emotions of those from the spirit world. And also, if you've got barriers on your emotions because of past experiences, or because you don't like people to see your emotions, so then you're then putting a barrier to the spirit world. So really, you need to look at your emotions and embrace the positive aspects of your emotions, but also learn to deal with the negativity of your emotions, okay, and the acceptance of them, or the release of them. And and also when you are touching, it's not just to do also with self, but when we are really touching that God point and that real true spiritual essence within ourselves, it's such a wonderful feeling. It can touch us and affect us emotionally in a good way. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah. There was another part to your question. Yeah.
How do you? It's just the advice of, how do I know if I'm meant to be fulfilling a purpose of becoming a medium? It's
okay. So what we've got to look at, okay, is that the mediumistic ability has to be there. We can't put it there. Okay. I do believe, there's a lot of mediums who say everybody can train to be a medium. I disagree in one way with that. Okay. But what I do agree with, and it would be wrong for me to deny anybody, because we're all spiritual beings, then that means we all can have spiritual experiences to one degree or another. But it's a different ball game whether we can deliver the mediumship where we are using it in a consistency for other people. All right. Also, what we've got to look at is that there is a mediumistic ability there with some people, but it is their choice, and the spirit world won't force us. Okay. I can remember when I was doing this part-time, I got my day job and I was doing this, and I was getting so busy, I was having difficult coping with both. And I kept saying to the spirit world, am I meant to do this full time? Is this supposed to be my work and life? No answer. And so I thought, right, I'll book a reading with a medium. It was actually Glyn Edwards, some of you might know him, very good medium of the day. And he didn't know why I wanted the reason. I went, and he gave me some quite good evidence from the spirit world. And then he said to me, he says, Paul, the spirit world have just said, it's your decision whether you go full time or not. I thought, oh no, that's not the answer I want. I want them to tell me, okay. But then he added, but they're saying if you decide to make it your life's work, they will always make sure there's enough work to provide for your needs. And they always have, all right? So what I believe is you've got to listen to your own soul, Hannah, yeah, okay? You've also got to look at your own physical life. The spirit world don't expect us to neglect our physical life and experiences we need to have, okay? Gordon used to actually tell a lot of young women who had good mediumistic ability, he used to say, go away and have your children, then come back. Yeah. So the spirit world are happy to take what we're prepared to give. And the spirit will think nothing less of you, and it doesn't mean you're a lesser medium if you only decide to make it a part of your life and not your full life. I actually think there's too many people make it their full life when they shouldn't, instead of it just being part of it. But this is where, again, this self-awareness comes from, and even though at times I have my moments where I get despondent with the ups and downs with what I do, okay, but honestly, it fulfills me, that nothing else does, so there's got to be that awareness, it's like anything else in your life. If it's not satisfying, it's not fulfillment, you feel an emptiness or it's a strain within your being to do it. And I would worry, I don't know what stage of your journey you are, Anna. I actually think people decide too early and want to know too soon what they're going to be and what they're going to do with it. I always say, if you're interested and you want to do a journey of discovery, then do the journey of discovery. Do it with the joy, and don't worry what you're going to be and become with it, and allow it to naturally unfold, and the path or the direction of what you become and what you'll do with it will happen. That makes sense.
Happy, Hanna?
Yes, absolutely. You've answered a lot of my concerns. Thank
Wonderful. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you, Hanna. That was a lovely way to finish, because I don't think we have any more questions now. And that was a lovely way to finish. So a lesson for us all there, Paul, I think. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Can I thank you, Paul, most sincerely, for giving your time to us this evening.
Oh, enjoy.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure listening to you. You're always very informative, very interesting, and very amusing. I love your company, as I think everyone has here this evening. And we've learnt a lot as well, haven't we, people? Just nod your heads to me now. There we go.
Before you go, can I just say one thing to everybody who are doing the journey? Okay, sometimes I'm classed as a hard and strict teacher. I'm not really. I'm a disciplined teacher. Okay, and anybody who wants to achieve and do anything well with any gift in life, if you listen to those who achieve the heights, they always speak about the disciplined teacher they had. There's too many of you who just want teachers to give you a nice time and tell you how lovely you are and everything you do is wonderful. Or they just want to say nice things so you'll read book with them. But, it's not going to give you the discipline and the training you need for your mediumship to really manifest to its full potential, So don't choose the easy way. It's a struggle. You have to go through hard times, but anything worth having is worth fighting for, worth struggling and having to go through those pain barriers with. And the journey is definitely worthwhile. I don't regret it for a day. So whatever you do with your journey, whatever you manifest and achieve, I wish you well with it. But also remember, enjoy it. Gordon always said, if the joy goes out of it, call it a day.
Well, that's lovely. That's lovely. And I am hoping that we'll see you back at the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre as well, Paul.
You never know. You never know.
Well, either physically, hopefully phically, but if not, online classes. But it would be lovely to have you back again. So we'll need to get you booked in for next year once we get rid of all this COVID.
Yes.
So thank you again, and let me remind everyone. Paul has given his time this evening as a fundraising event for the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre whilst we're locked down, and we've been bringing you all our services online free. So if you can just donate a few pounds, maybe £3, the price of a cup of coffee, that keeps us going and enables us to bring you all these services. So if you could, that would be much appreciated. And if you've already done it, let me thank you very much indeed for your support. Thank you for being with us. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope we'll see you again on some of our other services. But for now, please virtually thank you to Paul Jacobs. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, everyone. My pleasure. Thank you, Anne.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Paul.